When we first started on level 3, we realised it was going to go to level 4 very shortly. So we started talking to all the staff. We didn't want face-to-face because that's where you can get the disease from. A couple of things we did note that we also asked our staff members to stand up when people do come in.
First panic was, are people going to try to withdraw right away? When they hear there's a lockdown coming, are they going to rush to get things out? No. We found out that's not what happens. By and large, people were pretty happy to have goods in storage. We found it in some areas. They actually got a rush of business coming in.
Believe it or not, quite a few of our projects have been accelerated because so many tradies, the pub's no longer open, they can't take the kids to the beach. They're actually working 12-hour days, 6 or 7 days a week. Quite a few of our projects have been brought forward.
Self-storage is quite constant. It's a very safe bet to type of industry to move into. And these other companies where they've had to let off a lot of staff, they're now trying to push forward with the self-storage construction as quickly as possible because they can see that the industry is still quite strong.
But I think as self-storage becomes more accepted as an asset class and matures, although I do think it's already matured in Australia but continues to mature, then you're going to have more investors chasing that high return, which brings down cap rates further.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened in the office sector and the retail sector and the more traditional asset classes for some time.
So from the idea of actually running a self-storage business, there's no doubt that a mobile storage business has got materially more moving parts in that you've got a higher labour component and we've got logistics that we run internally. But from the utilisation of land, we'd argue that longer term, we're utilising the land in a fairly efficient way. In that there's very little capital works required on these industrial assets to actually house the storage units.
But I have a tendency to think about the world as I'm going to make my own weather as opposed to let it rain all over me. And I think there is opportunity to learn in every situation, right? And so that's what I'm looking at this as well. And how are we going to learn from this and make our businesses better?
Growing population, people wanting to live closer to the city, accumulating stuff, good property. For me, self-storage seems like a no-brainer. You can go through those periods and you can look at it one or two ways. You can be a victim and say, I've got an excuse now, fantastic. I'm going to leverage that for poor performance or mediocre performance. Or you can go, well, this is a great opportunity to test yourself, see how good you are, see what you can do and see what outcomes you can deliver. Because great businesses are built through these type of periods as well.
I think servant leadership as well, that to me is really, really important in a team sport. In an individual sport, even when you're a part of a team, I remember Grant Hackett talking about that as well. Even though swimming is seen as an individual sport, they're obviously the Aussie swim team. So servant leadership is really being interested in your others and being empathising with them and really being there to serve them. It's a fine line between being a leader with an ego to being there to serve others and to be humble enough to ask the questions and invite others into that sphere as well.
We all need to take advantage of the remote access technologies that are available. I'm sure most of the self-storage customers and businesses have already experienced that. How do you ramp that up to help your business operations keep going? And how do you reduce the exposure and potential risk of people? Yeah. Technology is the best way to do that. Again, technology and information always are great with risk management.
We believe that if a customer needs support, they should have the ability of jumping on a phone and literally talking to us, and therefore we take care of the problem. We work really closely with brands such as Hikvision and Dawa from a CCTV perspective, Bosch from an office alarm perspective, pretty much everything self-storage, even electric fence brands such as Gallagher, and more recently with the likes of gate automation systems, and also in regards to our roller door motor companies as well.
For now, it's just focusing on those people that are changing their living situation. So you see more, especially the younger, sort of 25 to 35, they're either moving back into share houses to compel rent or moving back with their family.
When crisis happens, the call center people are replaced by these veterans that will sit in at the call center and they know how to handle everything. They won't quit, right? And when things start to normalize again, then they come back out, and then they do their own thing. I think an emergency task force for facing customers is important during crisis times, because new guys, they can't handle it.
We know self-storage has an upside during recessions as well. We know that, the people that are downsizing will move in. We know that, we get a surge in e-businesses and things like that. The people that are using storage now are, have come in at this point in time and still going to keep using it. So it's not all doom and gloom.
I think one of the big things is that, people have really valued self-storage as a product more during this COVID than they possibly have in the past, where they're using us for many, many, many more things and reasons. And lucky we're there for the community, because there's a lot of situations that we've been able to help people out with.
Out of crisis comes innovation, right?
Correct.
So what sort of innovation are you seeing already, and what do you anticipate might come out of this next few months?
I think for Australia, there's a couple of different options there. I think one is not necessarily from an innovation perspective to begin with. It's the ability to actually how customers pay. I think the ways that have been done in the past will definitely change, and I think that is more about society changing. And what I mean by that is probably more cash that will actually be non-existent. And I think that would be a trend which is actually good for self-storage from a delinquent perspective as well.